I do have a definite memory from the time.
I was just throwing out positive energy.
Everything seemed to freeze in time.
It goes beyond what you could reasonably have prepared.
Even before he struck it, I think I was ready to go.
I knew when he took a touch, he would score.
Aguero! Just staggering! Sergio Aguero has done it! I don't believe what I'm seeing! They're all punching each other! They got love bites and everything!
I don't even know where that comes from. I mean, it was a stream and a half.
This is going to be a moment that I will remember to my dying day.
This script just could not become any more extraordinary. Have my eyes actually got this right?
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again!
I've been around this football club in its various guises for a long period of time now, and that phrase that I'd heard a few times, I heard it a lot that morning, it could be typical City, meaning they've built us up and they'll let us down.
City and United are level on points. City have got to win, pretty much in the knowledge that United will win their game at Sunderland.
My heart of hearts said Manchester City are too good. All they had to do was beat Queen's Park Rangers at home. Easy.
City's fans knew deep down that this was the most winnable of winnable home games.
I thought there were certainties. I thought it was an absolute given.
The press stewards at City are always very sort of welcoming, but they are just die-hard Blues, and you'd shake their hands and look them in the eye and wish them luck, and you could just see the nerves.
It was completely full. There were people who'd been turned away, journalists from all over the world.
And you look round and you see the heavyweights have come in from Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy or L'Equipe in France.
A lot of people wrote material, obviously not knowing Manchester City and their history, and started to write their reports before the game.
Welcome along to Squeaky Bum Sunday.
Oh, what a
the
night.
last day of the Premier League season.
Queen's Park Rangers obviously had an issue. They weren't just here making up the numbers on the last day of the season. They were playing to stay in the Premier League. In terms of the ability of the two teams, you would have thought that City would win in a reasonably straightforward fashion.
Goodness me, it was the most unstraightforward afternoon that you're ever likely to watch in any sport in all of your life.
44 years, 22 changes of manager, 5 relegations and 5 promotions. Manchester City stand on the edge of glory again.
Manchester City will become only the 5th different name on the Roll of Honour if they beat Queen's Park Rangers.
There will be tears. You know there will be tears.
I knew it before I was told it. I knew it from the fans around me.
No goals, but there has been one on Wearside.
Manchester United lead. Pressure on Manchester City. Only against Queen's Park Rangers at home, but it's goalless at the moment.
Warrior, that's the word that always comes to mind about Pablo.
I don't think there could have been a more popular scorer.
It's Zabaleta! Where's it going to drop? It's in! The mood changes from desperation to delight.
You could sense that people were starting to believe, but always you still feel that there are City fans around who are thinking, how is this all going to go wrong? It's got to go wrong somehow.
It is half-time. It is engrossing, undulating, entirely absorbing.
At half-time I did speak to some of the spectators behind us, and they were not ready to party just yet.
Because of the immediacy of deadlines, especially now in a digital age, you usually, especially for a Sunday game or an evening game, you have to start writing your report during the game. I probably started at half-time to dare to start writing the glory stuff.
A cup of tea and a biscuit, and on we go.
Manchester City 45 minutes away, barring mishaps.
Where we are in the press box, you're amongst the fans, which is brilliant. So they were turning around all the time, partly for updates on what was happening with Manchester United, partly because they didn't want to see what unfolded in that extraordinary moment when QPR, who were fighting for their lives, got back into it.
Queen's Park Rangers hadn't read the script.
I can remember almost hearing a
The Cisse seesaw.
And Cisse scores!
Verstappen!
We're suddenly tipping back the other way, and the instinctive pessimism of City fans kicks in again.
The anxiety around that stadium is hard to find the words to describe it, but you could tangibly feel it.
It is agony. It's the rule of football. Before the ecstasy, if it is to come, there has to be a period of agony.
The whole tension clearly got to the QPR players as well as City's, and it got to him more than anything. Maybe even thinking deep down, I could have been a part of this, and it never worked out for me.
Obviously, connections here. It wasn't pretty.
There's a red card, and Joey Barton stares controversy in the face again.
He's handed Manchester City a title chance.
But also there was that nagging feeling that if any club could fail to beat a 10-man group of strugglers without a prayer, it was going to be City because of their history. But this was a major moment in their favour.
I've given up trying to predict anything in football.
This couldn't happen, could it? Down to 10 men.
It put the cat amongst the pigeons here, didn't it, really?
Mackie! Jamie Mackie has sent Manchester City towards heartbreak on the final day of the season. It is typical City.
Typical City. I had that phrase in my mind.
It's Mackie scored! Man City fans, you cannot believe it, Jeff.
I've talked to Man City fans since when I've been up and down the country, and they left. Some of them left the ground at 2-1.
Well, there are tears already. It isn't done yet, boy. When you're working for the club's commentary channel and you're trying to not be biased, but with an emphasis on the club, you are trying to stay positive. But when Mackie scores, the place was completely deflated.
You couldn't help but feel for these fans who turned up expecting to have a party.
The look of pending heartache amongst some of the City fans sitting in front of us was clear. I mean, I saw this woman who walked out, and I described her, possibly a bit unfairly, looking like she just staggered out of a car crash.
But at this point, I was literally in full flow, writing my report about how there just seems to be something about the club, almost as if it's cursed.
I think the last few minutes of the game, a lot of the tension had disappeared, and that might have been what helped the players on the field, because most of the fans sitting around us were thinking, well, that's it then.
I was sitting there and I'm thinking, this is going to fizzle out. And then Charlie said to me, Charlie, Nick and Tomo said, what do you reckon, what do you reckon? And I said, there'll be drama. There'll definitely be drama in this game. Something's going to happen.
The injury time, or Fergie time as I called it, was just one of the most unbelievable passages of play I've ever witnessed.
And then all of a sudden the corner come over.
Silva whips it in. Header, goal! It's 2-2! And Dzeko! And they run back to the halfway line, Jeff.
When Dzeko's header hits the net, your first response is to look at your watch.
4 minutes to save themselves! 4 minutes to find their crown!
I remember saying to my producer, who did get a little bit excited, I remember saying, well, this is City, that just makes it worse.
The tiniest little bit of hope. It's the hope that's been killing them for years.
The other subplot, of course, was the news was coming through to QPR and they were getting calls directly to the bench. One of their backroom staff had gone to the game that affected their relegation issue.
QPR were out on their feet. They had nothing left. There were only 10 of them. And what's more, fairly early in stoppage time, they learnt that they were safe. So, in a sense, they were now a sitting duck.
I'm not saying for one moment that it affected their concentration, but somebody might argue that.
And I remember QPR got the ball and they kicked it in the corner. They literally kicked it in the corner, and they all run back to the edge of the box.
It's now come down effectively to goal. It was all down to individuals taking responsibility, and Balotelli has had some criticism. I've slagged him off on many an occasion for some of the daft things that he's done. I tell you what, that was a great pass to Aguero.
It's finished at Sunderland.
Tony Mills was the match director, who's I've worked with actually for most of the years that I've been in television. And his talent for keeping calm at a moment like that, because it's not just what was happening here. We have the pictures Sunderland as well.
Manchester United have done all they can. That Rooney goal was enough for the 3 points.
To have the shots, the split screen of the United players that much away from winning another Premier League title. And then we came back from that to the moment Balotelli got the ball.
Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli!
It was a Hollywood feature film made with all the advantages of high-tech doing it after the event. You couldn't have got it better, and Tony got it absolutely spot on. And then the roof fell in, really.
Aguero!
I do get asked sometimes, oh, did you have that ready to say? And I go, how on earth could you imagine a scenario like that? After I said Aguero, with a lot of O's on the end, there is a period of silence. That's partly down because I think pictures tell the story better than words, but also Mark Hughes told me the next night it's the noisiest moment in a football ground he'd ever experienced. So that sort of, I think, had some effect on, that noise was in my ears, not just in the stadium, but we have the crowd effects in our ears as well.
Watch it! Drink it in! They've just heard the news at the Stadium of Light!
I see that goal in slow motion. I never see it in real time anymore.
It's Sergio Aguero! Manchester City winner!
The Aguero, I can't even do it now. People come up to me still and say, when you did the commentary, why did you copy Martin Tyler? And I have to try and explain to them that it's all live. There are still people who think it isn't.
It's a great broadcasting challenge to think on your feet at a time like that. You can have, and I did have, some words sort of knocked together for Manchester City's inevitable trophy lift. But in that moment, you realise that those words just weren't enough.
Aguero! Staggering! Just staggering!
4 seconds earlier, I couldn't have told you that the word I was going to use was staggering. But staggering is what came out.
Where does football go from here?
And that was just an instinctive realisation that it cannot get any more exciting than this.
I can't remember much of what I said at all.
Aguero! He can win it! Oh! He's won the title! Surely!
I suppose, went to 10 on the Richter scale, and I think any commentator has the right to do that.
Who is writing this stuff?
I'll be honest, when Aguero scored the winner, I didn't have a clue what I said.
It went for Aguero! They've done it! City win the title! I don't believe what I'm seeing!
You were trying to keep your voice in check from breaking or saying something truly insane.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Manchester United are seconds away from the title. Wayne Rooney got the only goal. The next day, my reaction was shown, I don't know how many times, on Sky News and then on the internet.
Incredible! Oh my God! You should have seen anything like this. It's gone mad!
You'd have thought I was a Man City fan all my life. No, I was just doing my job, and I love football, and it was just a special moment.
Press box, people are looking around, few fairly lively words going around. I mean, at the age of Twitter, it had already started, so people were sort of already sort of pouring a reaction out on social media. But I'm not sure 140 characters could quite do that moment justice. You probably need 140,000 words in a book.
When something like that happens, it still hits you at a gut level. The wow factor of that is unbelievable. Then you think, I've got a lot of writing to do here. I had to delete almost all of what I'd just written. They expected my match report within 5 minutes of the final whistle.
And I looked round at some of the foreign journalists who were there, and they were going, "Wow, this is English football." And I remember having a chat with a guy from Gazzetta, and looked at what he'd written the next day. He said, "One day Prince Charles will be King of England, but today the King of England is Roberto."
There were so many features on that day which on their own would have made the day remarkable, but in combination took it beyond comic book stuff.
A day many thought would never come.
You don't get titles won with the last kick of the last game in injury time. It doesn't happen, but it did once.
It was really nice of the club to play that to him with my commentary on. I think he thought it was pretty funny how berserk I went.
We're very self-critical as commentators as a breed, and we don't want to spoil it. I think it's not an exact science, and there are plenty of times where I could tell you I didn't find the right mood for it. But in 2012 I did, but Sergio, thank you.
I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again.
You will never see anything like it again, I promise you.